No, I meant comparing your age. No, it's more just a thinking that can be right.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko o tākaro, ko Opowaho, ko Kuhara Kiki Nui o Mātou Awa, ko Ihutai te Moana, ko Waitai te Hapori, ki ngā paenga o tātou e mahi nei. Ko Pumat Mātoku Ingoa, ko au te manakura o tēnā koari. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to the Waitai Community Board meeting. If you'd like to join me in the karakia timatanga. Whakataka te hau ki te tū. Whakataka te hau ki te tū. Kia mā kina ki rita. Kia mā tātaka ki tāne. E hei kia ki tātakura. E te hiro, e ruka, e hau. Ti hei, ora. Kia ora koutou. So do we have any apologies? I have one apology from Councillor Kelly Barber. Any other apologies?
May need to leave early departure.
Yeah, for possible early departure. Would somebody like to move that those be accepted? Moved by Jackie, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, moving now to declarations of interest. We have a declaration from Alex and item 15, specifically in relation to applications from Eastern Community Support and Recreation and Youth Alike Trust. I have an interest in with ACTIS because I'm the board appointee to the committee. Manage that conflict by not participating in funding decisions at the ACTIS board. So we'll participate in that. Yanni?
I'm the patron of also volunteer library.
Volunteer library.
And I've an interest events as well with my relationship with them.
Tim, for ACTIS, any other conflicts of interest? All right, no other conflicts of interest. Thank you, members. It's always good to be transparent.
And the museum.
Oh, and the museum. Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. For item 12 for me as well. Thank you.
Item 12, what?
It's the Parklands United.
Oh, Parklands United.
So.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. No other items, conflicts? All right. Thank you. Moving on to confirmation of previous minutes from 10th of July. Happy to move. Jackie, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. All right, thank you, everybody. So now we move on to the public forum. We have a few. So the first one is about the Waitai-Burwood Road intersection. And we have Riley, Stewart Hope and Judd Catamole, students of Waitakere School, to come and talk to us now. So if you'd like to come to the table, if you need 3 chairs, you can always pull another one up. All right, you're good. All right, and in front of you, there's some buttons. The one that has like a person with sound coming out of it. You can see if you press one of those, you press that button, it will turn on, and that way we'll be able to hear you louder. All right, thank you. So you've got your 5 minutes, including questions. So, but the board's very excited to have you. So look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Riley, and this is Chad Catamole. I'm a year 6. And I'm a year 5. Here to talk to you today about the Burwood Roundabout. We are here to talk about Burwood Roundabout near Burwood Hospital. Here's what we know about the roundabout so far. It's dangerous for cyclists and walkers. Hard to cycle and walk across. Cars go really fast and that can be a bit concerning from time to time. There's been many car crashes there. Some kids from our school feel scared to walk across the roundabout. kids have almost been hit. Each year, the intersection keeps getting busier. Suggestions and improvements to the intersection. Remove the roundabout, put in signal crossings. Made better for cycling with separate cycle lanes and cycling crossing lights. Make the footpath available for everyone, including the people in wheelchairs. What we would like from you, bring the project forward and have it done before the end of this year. Take the roundabout away and put in traffic lights. Make sure the intersection is safe for everyone to use. We want kids to be able to get to school safely. Make it happen before the end of the year, so when I leave, I will know I have made a difference for everyone at Waitai. And that is our presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to the board. I think we might have a time for a question. Now, I can assure you that the board agrees that this intersection is a problem and needs to be fixed. But we will rely on the council to agreeing with the board. Do we have any questions? No questions. Do you know why? It's because you're right and we agree with you.
We do.
Good work.
Well done, guys.
Thank you very much. All right. We have another public forum from Waitai, so we have Michelle Holt. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, sure, and I don't half feel into So kia ora koutou, my name is Michelle Hollis. I'm the new coordinator of Biketober. I know Biketober has been to this board before, but it may have been some years ago. Biketober is Christchurch's community festival of cycling. We are a grassroots festival and a large portion of our funding comes from a multi-year Strengthening Communities grant. So I felt it was important to come back around to the community boards, tell you what we're doing and invite your support. So I have three things. My first thing is a request that you tell people about Biketober. Biketober is all about anyone just getting on their bikes, dragging them out of the back of their garage, getting on their bikes and just having a puzzle around. We have over 40 events that people can get involved in. Almost all of them are free. So Biketober has a website, biketoberchch.nz. And if you ever have any questions about Biketober, it's biketober@gmail.com. So it's biketober@gmail.com. It would be really great to see some of you out there on your bikes. So over the next 2 months, we're going to have a program of talking about the program, and I'm hoping to see some of you there. And I have one very particular request. This year, we're going to try something new. We're going to try hyper-local rides. This is an idea that I took from Pedalpalooza, which is Portland's version of Biketober. Portland have been doing a cycling festival for 20 years. They have 800 events organised by 600 different individuals and organisers. And Portland is obviously a much bigger city than Christchurch, but the thing that I think is phenomenal about what they do is the number of organisers that they have. That shows how much it's a community-driven festival, not just something that's put together at the top. It's impossible to do that on volunteer labour, which is what they do, like us. So one of their most popular events, even more popular than World Naked Bike Ride, is New to Portland. And New to Portland is a ride for people who are new to Portland. And we want to do New to Ōtautahi. We don't just want to do New to Ōtautahi, we want to do New to North Beach, New to South Shore, New to Burwood, New to Preston. It's a very simple idea. Somebody who rides a bike invites other people who are new to the area who also ride bikes to go for a ride around, show them some of the new places that they may not have been before, show them some of the shortcuts that you can take on a bike that you can't do in a car, and just focus on that 15 minutes around your neighbourhood. So if you know anyone who is keen to meet new people and is really enthusiastic about just getting around the neighbourhood on a bike, or if you want to do that yourself, we'd really, really welcome it. And I live locally, I just live up in Cheddar Ave. So hopefully one or two of you might actually see you on a ride.
I'd bike down Cheddar Ave.
Yay! To avoid the roadworks.
I'm also an enthusiastic e-bike rider. I use it, we've only got one car and I use it as my main form of transport. So.
Great. So I could go on about Biketober all day, but does anyone have questions?
I've got about 30 seconds. Any questions? Celeste?
Hi there. Sorry, I'm stuck at home. I've got a cold, but it's really exciting. I just wondered if you're able to share with us your program. Will you be sending that through?
Yes, absolutely. I'll send a link to the website. We're in the middle of uploading it actually behind the scenes. I think I was up to ride number 14 this morning.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And next we have another public forum about the QE2 Park request for an alcohol ban.
Kia ora, I'm Rebecca from Multi Events Limited. Also a local Wainoni resident myself, and my daughter goes to Parkview, so really enthralled in the area. Multi Events has been doing large scale, small scale events since 2009. We've evolved the business quite a lot in the last few years, where we've taken on more of the intox management side of things as opposed to presenting the entire event itself. Since November 2022, we've started putting events back into QE2, and we are proposing that we put an alcohol ban in place at 24 hours time period for when the large scale events are there, like Hagley Park, to assist us in a number of things. One being it prevents preloading to coming to the events. It helps all of the stakeholders and residents within the area to prevent disruption, loitering, litter, and all of those things. We've found that it works extremely well with Hagley Park. It's a tool that us and our security can use to hinder people being a nuisance to people outside of the event. And, if it's the same across the board for all event sites, it's about training the attendees of these events into this is the expected behaviour of you. So it would be really nice to be able to have that across the board. We have support from all of the stakeholders within QE2. Sorry, I don't know how to use this. Sorry. The events that we've had there so far have been things like River Marta, the Golden Lights Festival, Fatboy Slim, and more recently Netsky. They've all had between 4,000 and 6,000 people attend these events. They've all been 18 plus with a special licence applied to for the council. They have all run very smoothly. We've had exceptionally good feedback from residents in the area. I've had emails, I've had text messages saying how impressed they are of how these things have been run, traffic management wise, litter wise, customer behaviour wise. So we just want this temporary alcohol ban to assist us and to carry that on for the area. We think bringing these events to New Brighton is a really positive thing for the area. I mean, I've lived in this area my entire life, so it's really nice to be able to bring something positive back to here, and we expect to do more shows. We did have an incident at Netsky concert externally from the event where a gentleman was stabbed. I was present at this time myself. The police were also present when this situation happened. Yes, it happened outside the event and they had been at the event. However, the incident itself occurred, and it would have occurred had it been at our event, had they been in town. Both parties were known to each other. It was dealt with very swiftly and effectively, and the police were a great help at that point in time. That's the only real incident that we have had. And then we've had a police report come through from Dave Robertson, who is the head of the alcohol harm unit, with some stats. So this is the area that we're looking at using, which is the main football fields and the surrounding area of where this information has come from. So these are the stats for 500 incidents throughout the zone, and you'll see that the area that we are looking at is the least affected area, and we want to keep that, keep it up. And this is the time span of when those incidents happen. So they range from 4 a.m. till 10 p.m, which our proposal times for the event will be between 2 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. at the latest. Currently, there's in the district plan, there's allowance for 3 events a year, which is from 9 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. noise restriction wise, which is what we've been utilising. And we're in the process of applying for a resource consent to have a few more events a year there as well. These are the types of offences that are all related to some form of alcohol, whether it be family disorder, drink driving, all of those things. And that's where the, I believe this is over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So the proposal is that the alcohol ban goes in from 12:01 a.m. and then stays in place till 11:59 on the event day.
About 1 minute.
Sorry. So this will obviously, all of the things we've discussed will assist us in that. And that is the area that will go from Beach Road, Ascot, Bowers, Travis Road, Frost Road. Within that space will be the ban area. These are all the people that we've had support from. So all of the stakeholders, police and the public, and everybody is really behind this. And this is what the signage would look like, and they'll be placed around prominent areas.
All right, cool, thank you. We don't have any time for questions, but there will be a report that comes to the community board and then goes to council, so we can ask any further questions then. But for myself, as a person who pushed the Woolston alcohol ban, supportive of this and supportive of, as you know, it's very different in its nature, but I know that's been successful elsewhere. So yeah,
Brilliant.
thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So is that you that showed up on that?
Yeah, actually, it was my house, but it might have been with my tenant. I'm not too sure.
Oh,
It may have
yeah.
been robbed. Oh, no, it might have been when my boarding was stolen.
All right. So now we have a deputation from Parklands United Sport Club. We have Debbie Newman and Nick James, I think. Hello, Debbie and Nick. Now, because this is a deputation, you have 10 minutes, as opposed to 5 of the public forum.
Oh, right.
So that's 10 minutes, including questions, up to. And then, if it's okay, we'll move to the decision about the lease. Right from then.
I've just done an overview of the sports club for anyone that doesn't know. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to come to the board meeting, to keep you in the loop of what the Parklands United Sports Club is providing for the local community of Parklands. I'm Debbie Newman, I'm the president of the club, and I've been involved in the club for over 30 years, firstly with my girls playing, and then I got onto the committee, and I've held most positions on the committee and very passionate about the club and the community. With me today is our treasurer, Nick James, who was elected to the committee about 3 years ago. You might tell me it's wrong. Is it wrong?
More 5.
Oh, okay, sorry, 5 years ago. As the treasurer, he was on holiday while he got elected, so that was even better. And he has 2 children that have been involved in the sports club as well, and he also plays in one of the Masters teams. We have a committee of 18 people who are all committed to doing the best the club can within the community. The club was established over 50 years ago with football under the name of North Beach Parklands Football Club. A few years later, the committee introduced netball, followed by cricket and later touch. The committee changed the name to Parklands United Sports Club because we have 4 codes under one umbrella, which is very unique within Christchurch. Within the football section this year, we've had 7 senior football teams, with the Masters side of the team seem to be increasing each year, which is encouraging. The junior and youth sides grow in numbers each year, with 35 teams this year, which includes the lovely 6 teams of the first kicks, which meet at Parklands Reserve every Saturday morning, and they're aged from 4 to 6 years, and it's fantastic to watch these little ones get involved. With the netball section, we have 3 senior teams and 17 youth and junior teams, which play at either Wilding Park on a Friday or Agu Park on a Saturday. These teams also train at the netball courts at Queen's Park Reserve, where we have lights for the teams to train later in the day as well. We have fun ferns, which are aged between 4 and 6 as well, and we have 26 of those wee players. We're having the time of their life at the Waitai Domain under the canopy on a Friday afternoon. We are about to open the registrations for cricket, and last season we increased the teams from four the season before to 7, and hoping to increase them again this year, the 2023-24 season. To increase the teams, we have a great convener who gets into the local schools and has have-a-go sessions to encourage the children to play sport. The touch module has been going for many years, and we have around 20 to 24 teams, and they play on a Friday night at Parklands Reserve as a very social module. We've introduced this year walking football on a Wednesday night, and are 3 weeks into this, and with the numbers increasing each week. Last week we had 15 players, and this is in the rec hall behind our sports lounge, and is very good for those who can't run and wanting some form of exercise to ease easy on their limbs. Every Friday night we have sports fest in the rec hall as well, which is for any child in the community wanting to try a different sport, football, cricket, netball, etc. This is a free activity for the community to get involved with, and last week we had 25 children, the most we've ever had. Also attended by the children in the summer when their parents are playing touch on the reserve. The club gets involved with anything that is promoted, that will promote the club, into the community, like Parklands at Play, and encourage the schools to work with us to get children playing sport. Our catchment is Marshams Road, Lower Sticks Road, North Shore to Avon River. We do have members outside of the area, and we never turn anyone away wanting to play sport. I'd like to also thank the council for the upgrade of the toilets in the sports lounge of the Parklands Community Centre. It's great that orange is gone. It has been the same for over 30 years, and the painting of the area looks great. Your support is much appreciated. This is a quick overview of the club, and hopefully gives you a better insight of what the club provides the local community. Please feel free to call in any time at the club rooms. Are open from 4:30 on a Saturday night. It would be great to see you. No.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions?
You must have had touch rugby for at least 30 years.
Possibly, yes. Did you play?
I didn't know you were that old.
Yeah.
24.
Yes.
Great place.
What's the fastest growing part of your club?
All of them.
All of them, really. Yes,
We had
in the
really good
past
numbers
year.
increased last year across all the sports actually, which has been really good. So we've worked quite hard with it. We've got a lot of people involved in the club. So
Yeah.
um,
And a lot of them play all codes. So there's quite a few that play football, and the seniors will play touch. The kids will play football and cricket, or netball and cricket. So yeah.
Cool. Greg?
Also actually a question more of a comment. The new uniforms look fantastic this year.
Yes.
The new logos and stuff look really sharp and really bold. My daughter plays in the netball team, and it's been really cool to see the bright, vibrant colours and stuff out there, and so I really appreciate it.
It's great to see
Yeah.
them on the
Looks
courts
much
and the
better, doesn't
fields.
it?
Yeah.
Looks real good.
Yeah.
cool, it's good.
Yanni, you'll get them next year.
It's the conflict, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. and
Right,
thanks for
thank
coming
you.
to the board. Always
Right,
good to hear from
thank you.
the organisations.
Cool, thank you very much.
All right. So what we'll do now is we'll move to discuss first item 12, and then because the same, so that's the Parklands, this lease issue. And then we'll go to item 11 because the same staff are here to talk about.
Thank you very much. So I'm just looking for a new lease term for Parklands United Sports Club, who know have been in the community a long time and do really good work. So I have discussed with the club about the increase in rent, and we have agreed to stagger the implementation of the increase. So everyone seems to be happy with that. So
Great.
So just for you, Mr. Chair, just for the board's information, I've just included a note to the resolution to highlight the staggering of the implementation of the increase, just so everyone's clear.
That's really good. Thank you very much. Would someone like to move staff recommendation? Moved by Tim and seconded by Alex. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Yanni took no part. And then item number 11, which is the velocity cards at Bexley Reserve, which this was one of the came to our attention.
Yes.
And as an organisation that I think we all, if we weren't already familiar, like I wasn't really, we became a bit more familiar. So I know enough about it to know that I'm very supportive of this continuing and happy to give more certainty to a really good organisation. Happy to move. Seconded by Greg. Any questions or further discussion before we?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know, I guess I was just a bit confused from this. Is there a map of the area? Like, you obviously got it, but are they expanding beyond the area?
No, they're staying fully within their current licensed area.
So all the new activities that they're looking at is all going to happen within this
around the edges, because the actual drift, the course where the blow carts and that go is in the middle, and there's quite a bit of green space around within their fenced area. They've already got the foosball set up. We played it. We did a staff function there. So, and then they've just got some mini hole.
Just the other thing, I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch of issues with Bexley Reserve and development plan. We've had on-site meetings and a list of outstanding actions. What's happening in that regard? Because I guess I was a little bit concerned that.
Not sure it's you.
It's park staff. I don't have anything to do with operational. Sorry.
Right.
I just deal with leases.
Quite a few requests.
But it
I guess
takes
this particular lease.
Yannis, this particular staff member. Sorry,
Sorry, there were concerns when we met on site with the leasee over a number of things.
So Lisa isn't responsible for this area.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
You can't get any more information, Yana. You don't have it.
Around additional requirements for things that council would do to support or the owner of the lease would do. Right. So there's been some contention about things that should have been done, that haven't been done. Is there anything in the lease around this area, if we give the extension, that clarifies whose responsibilities that things are or timeframes for things being done?
The lease sets out what responsibilities are each person's. And as far as I'm aware, any issues down at the park are worked through with Ian on a regular basis. And the lease it tells them what they can and can't do and who's responsible for what, whether it's council or the tenant.
And so we need to follow up through governance staff with parks where the outstanding action is.
Yeah.
And that's just one very specific question to the list. Is there any requirement to provide toilets?
There are toilet upgrades.
There are toilets in the park. There's already toilets in the park. And there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there are.
And they've had temporary toilets.
He's had portaloos on site when he's needed them.
I believe I read, and forgive me if this is incorrect, that the upgrade to the toilets has been done.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware.
So we got a reply to that said that the toilets are now operational. A holding tank was installed a couple of months ago, so they could be reopened. The portaloos were removed. It looks they were closed for 10 days recently due to failed door locks, but they reopened on the 17th. hoping to have the new sewer line and water line in before summer. So that,
Great, thank you.
so thank you very much. So we have a motion on the table, and you have a question?
No.
Right. No, it's been moved. So all those, and seconded, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you
No
for doing both.
problem.
Yeah.
All right, so now we go back to item number seven. So we don't have any, no other deputations? Yeah, sorry, I was just checking that.
And no petition.
And nothing else. All right. We don't have any presentations, so it is number 7. So all this is correspondence. So we have, trusting that everybody's read this, we have some recommendation.
I'll move the recommendations.
Yeah, I'm happy with the staff recommendation, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. So it's Tim and Greg.
And just while I remember about, I think I sent it through an email requesting accessibility report for QE2. Is that followed through?
I've put a request through to staff.
Yeah.
As soon as I've got any information, I'll absolutely share it with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Greg, you have a question?
There's one thing I did talk to staff there, and they said they do have a second spare dryer that gets changed in and out, so they already have a separate one. The hand dryers are in their correspondence. Spinner, yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. All right, so now we move on to just the other staff report. The community parks, urban forest planting plans with Toby and Katie.
Through you, Mr. Chair, they're currently presenting at Pendleton. Could we defer that item from the agenda?
Okay, so we'll move on.
Send them a message now to say we're ready.
We'll move on to number 9, which is the proposed road names for 64A phase with present Sean. Welcome. Now, to kind of maybe speed things up. Yep, sure. I know that Yanni and I both have concerns about the name. Well, not concerns, I guess we'll prefer to do a Māori name. Yes. And I had suggested Waiuru, which kind of means the same thing literally as Westbourne. So would you care to respond to that?
Yes. So I sent a reply to Cindy a little while ago. The difficulty is that it's quite late in the piece and we don't have any culture. We don't have an ability, staff have no ability at the moment to get a cultural advisor or cultural advice on the use of te reo names. Quite a difficult position for us to be in. And through the new road naming policy, Runanga have made it reasonably clear that they don't want to be consulted, or they don't want to be involved in road naming as a generic sort of situation, but only where there are sites of significance or higher order roads that are being named. And so the difficulty is that with the window of time, we didn't have an opportunity to check out that name, and we're not really in a position to accept, or the staff are not really in a position to accept te reo names without some sort of oversight of that or checking of that.
So if I'm correct, it's now harder to name streets with New Zealand's official name?
It is not as easy as it could be. And the applicant, the consent holder for the subdivision, could make the running on that and do that consultation themselves, but often they don't. And in this particular instance, the developer had suggested some te reo names, but they were associated with Rapaki, which really probably wasn't.
Yeah.
But so straight away we said to them, well, actually, you need to deal with that. And if you want to use those names, then you'll need to.
So why is it so late in the piece?
I mean, in terms of
so why is it coming to us late? Because if I had been asked
months ago, yes, understood, because the way that developers respond, we have consent conditions, I guess is the first thing to say. There are consent conditions that require the road to be named. And there is advice in that consent that sets out what the process is with you guys, and that there's a specified process for getting onto an agenda and having those names come to the community board and all the checking we need to do beforehand. frequently people leave that very late in the piece. So I'm not saying my comment about late in the piece was in relation to this meeting and in terms of your feedback on those names and us being able to do something about that before appearing at the meeting, before this meeting was held, rather than late in the piece as a sort of general statement. So it was specifically about the timing where you came back through Cindy to us and the amount of time we had left before the meeting. We've no means to seek cultural input to that.
Okay, so if we were to decline the name, what would happen then?
Then the subdivider will have to go back into the process about a new name. The knock-on effect of that is that I haven't actually looked at the file to see where they are in relation to that, but the knock-on effect can be that we can't approve this 223 certificate, which is to approve the survey plan because they need to show the street name on the survey plan. So we can't approve the plan under section 223 of the RMA, which means then they get into a bind about being able to lodge a plan with LINZ for checking. And if they've completed all the work on the subdivision, we're obligated to issue a 224 certificate. And if we issue that in terms of all of the conditions that they need to comply with, then that will impact on their ability, the timetable for titling.
Okay, thank you. So I am wondering, members, if we leave this line on the table for next meeting, give the developer opportunity to follow up with a suggestion.
Sorry, has he done that with Rapeki?
No, I don't think so. He just offered these names and we asked him what was the origin, why he was using these names, what are they about.
It's not too already.
It's not too already, yeah. So Rapaki's down this side of the hill a little bit, but certainly not that far. So.
I'm happy to accept the name that they want to move things on, but that's up to everyone what they think.
What's your thinking? Why? Why is your thinking?
Or I guess so, and this is my personal view. This is that we have lots and lots of names in English.
Thinking in that area, right?
Yeah, and well, yes, particularly in that area, and it's not far from where I live, and I just would like to use Te Reo Māori names wherever we can, and there might be good reason. I understand the arguments for this particular case, but sort of not having an option is not my preference. But I'm the only one person on this board, so happy to hear what other people might have to say.
I like the name. I think it's fitting with the road around it. So for me, I have no issue with that particular name.
Jeff?
I just find it a little unusual that we're going to call something respawn in the middle of Christchurch East.
Well, I guess I will invite, if someone wants to move the staff recommendation, then we can have a debate. Does anybody want to move the staff recommendation?
I'll move it.
Moved by Joe. Anyone second? Seconded by Greg. All right, so we have a motion on the table and any debate. So anyone as the mover, Joe, you have right to speak first if you'd like to.
I just think that we should support what the staff have done and to proceed ahead with what the developer wishes. I think there is the ability to actually consult on this if need be, but that could have been done already in this process. Yeah.
Right. Anybody else wish to speak? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I just think we should get options for a Māori name. It doesn't mean we need to agree with it. I think in terms of our reports, we should have that option there. But I would feel uncomfortable, obviously, just giving it a Māori name without talking to other. Appreciate it. Because just talk to Mark Finner about that. So yeah, I wouldn't support this today. I do find it strange to just reflecting like the comment that was made around Westbourne, but also, just unfortunately London street names to a community in Christchurch, Waitai, does seem a bit odd to me.
Right. Anyone else? Tim?
Yep, I'm just thinking about, I don't know, around Hampshire Street, those are all named after places in Hampshire and around there. But then when the new road in, though, I won't say that, they put a new road in and it has got a Māori name of a person. So it's amongst all the English ones and it works fine. So I'm in two minds. I haven't made my mind up yet. Let's see what Alex has to say.
Well, Alex might not have anything to say. Does anyone else wish to speak? No? All right, well, I will then. So I would like, every time we get a request to have a Māori option and for a name change, and like the developer should have done that work. And, you know, it's not our fault that they haven't done that work from what we can tell. And I appreciate that developer might not have known that this is perhaps the preference of the board, but I would like it to be the preference of the board. And for that reason, I'll be voting against the staff recommendation, but it's no reflection on you. As a staff member, it's, you know, you don't decide what the approach that a developer will take. And with that, Joe, you have a right of response.
Yeah, I'm just, Sean, sorry, you said something before about that they don't want to be consulted.
We're in debate, Joe, so it's not time for questions.
Not time for questions, sorry. I'm just saying that I thought that staff has said to us that Māori don't want to be consulted on every single name, and that we should actually respect that wish if they don't want to be consulted on everything.
I think that we just, this isn't quite the proper debate kind of setup, but I think that's something that we need to understand. Yes, but in the meantime, I don't want to vote for it. And yeah, Celeste, did you have anything you wanted to say? Sorry. Okay, I'll take that as a no. All right, in that case, that ends the debate. So the motion will now be put. So all those in favour of the staff recommendation say aye.
Aye.
Against? No.
Can you be clearer? Sorry.
So I think we might need to have a division on that. Can we have a raise of hands? So all those in favour of the staff recommendation, raise your hands, please. So that's 1, 2, 3. And Celeste, I assume that's your hand up. So that's 4. And all those against, that's 4. So that is status quo, which means that it is effectively lost. So it doesn't pass. It needs a majority to pass. So it lapses. So with that in mind, you may need to come back to the board with another recommendation, different report. So sorry for the extra work that it puts on you, but no reflection on you. Thank you.
I've got a query.
You can, query.
My query is, when Wainoni Primary School subdivision was done, the streets were put in, and then it came to the board to have the names passed.
That's a Manawhenua subdivision road. So I think it's a.
Does that make it different?
I suspect the consultation process is easier. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll.
But the timing is different.
Yeah, we can get some advice on that.
Yeah.
We might need to actually give you some
guidelines,
good, clear advice
rules.
about the process outside of your process as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then developers could be given the information too.
If we could have some explanation of the process, that would be good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so we have dealt with that, item number 9. So we go back to 8 now, which is the community park urban forest planting plans. And we have Toby and Katie on Zoom.
Brilliant.
So I'll make this pretty easy for you because we've had some stuff about all 3 of those parks, as you'll be aware. And so I guess if you could address what has been raised with you about each of those parks, that would be real helpful. I think in general, we're all very enthusiastic about the plan and the attempts to increase the canopy, native plants, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yep. Can you hear me?
Just that's
that one?
Or you just turn it on? Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go. That's a good start. So thank you for having me. I'm here to present on the 3 parks, Cutler, Radley and St Florian Park. So they went out for consultation and Katie will be able to provide some more detail on consultation when we have questions on that. So you'll see that there's been some changes made to some of the plans based on the feedback. The main changes that have occurred, particularly in Cutler and St Florian, is the species makeup. So the feedback we got was a request for more native species. So we got other feedback as well in general on species. So what we've done is we've taken the particular species that were named for each tree and we've kept it down to size classes. And what we'll do is we'll be taking all that feedback and we'll be using that to develop a new planting species list that will go there in line with what's within the plan. If we start to go through them step by step, so Councillor Johansson has raised some things around Cutler Park as well. Did you want me to address those or did you want to raise them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm maybe happy just to ask questions after you present it.
Yeah, if you could just, because you've had them in advance, if you could just address them and if there's any further questions.
Yeah, so questions around Cutler Park. I suppose the main one is the playground renewal, which is in the long-term plan to be renewed in 2028. And whether the planting plan should wait till that playground renewal. So the planting plan that's currently in there, we don't expect will impact on that renewal. So we don't see a reason for that being delayed. Radley Park, we got some feedback, including one recently around some spaces in particular where planting will restrict their ability to access things for the local communities. So we're happy to take that on board and we're happy to adjust the plans and meet with the person who sent that feedback. We'll meet with them on site. We'll find out where their deliveries come in and we'll accommodate that. We'll remove planting spaces where required to make sure they can still get their access. They also highlighted some concerns around some species. So we'll talk to them about that and we'll adjust the species to meet their requests. And then St Florian Park, I don't believe we got any direct feedback on that, but we did have some internal staff. So we sent them around internal staff as well. And they raised the species mix in St Florian and felt for ecological reasons it should be an extension of the current planting along that drainage reserve. So the species will be changed to accommodate that and fit in with that. Yeah, I suppose I'm kind of open to any questions. Katie wanted to talk through any of the consultation stuff or?
No, it's all noted in the report. Just to note though about parklands.
Oh yes,
that
sorry.
It isn't.
Yeah. Did you want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to that?
Oh, okay, right. Okay, so we received a fair bit of feedback from Parklands, on Parklands Park rather, and that's why obviously it's not included as part of this report. We're going to go back and work more closely with the community groups in that area, just to see if we can sort of like resolve some of the issues that they raised. We'll be bringing that report back to you at a later date.
What I can say is, through this consultation, we've been very open to change. So any feedback that we've got, we've adjusted the plans. We've taken trees out where people have said they don't want a tree right outside their property. We've removed that from the planting plan. Where people have been concerned about the shade coming through, we've reduced the height of those trees. Where there's been concern about species. So we haven't pushed back on any changes. We've made changes where we've got that feedback come through. And those parks, so Parklands, for example, we did get a lot of feedback. So we've acknowledged that we need to engage with those people directly. We need to find what their real concerns are, and we'll accommodate those. Some of the feedback we got was from sports groups, so we'll engage more with those sports groups and we'll adjust those plans to make sure that it accommodates their concerns.
As we mentioned at the start of the this consultation, these are being done quite quickly to make the most of the existing, or what remains of the planting season this season, and some government funding money available. So there are more planting plans to come across the city as there's actually a huge program of work, and we will be taking a slightly different approach, and we'll be coming back to you as a board to discuss how we'll be doing that at a later date.
Yanni, you've got a question here.
I wanted to understand in regards to the engagement, did we do anything different in these three areas, given the low level of submissions that we received? And how does that compare to the other parks that we considered across the city?
We did park signage. So as I said, this was done, turned around quite quickly. So we didn't have what we would, in an ideal world, we would have had more time for a sort of a pre-engagement period to let people know that this was coming. And then unfortunately we didn't, for the reasons I just mentioned. So one of the most effective ways of reaching people in a short time frame is obviously site signage. The people who are actually in the parks. So 3 signs went up in each of those parks to let people know that this engagement was happening. Look, it was low engagement for those 3 parks there. However, we did have quite a bit more feedback for Parklands, for example, in your area.
I guess that's the reason for asking. This particularly concerned around Carlton Park. There's been a number of existing community events run by a community board where there'll be mailing lists of people. There's been letters to the board on behalf of a number of people through the local MP's office. And I'm just surprised that there's hardly anyone from those groups of people have even made a submission. And I'm worried that they don't know about it. Especially given the previous correspondence that the board had with that community about working together, where that doesn't seem to have happened in this particular case.
So I went back through some of that, and the feedback or the concerns that were raised around the park, those were largely addressed. So park staff went in there, they removed a lot of the dead plants, they changed the drainage, they fixed the drainage concerns that were there, they re-looked at the playground, they set up community planting days. So a lot of work has gone into that park to address those concerns, and the concerns also with the tree planting, keeping the space open so people can still see. There was a lot of feedback, not through this, but early on, was about things not happening in the park. So going in and planting and investing in that park is a way of showing and supporting that park in that area.
Sure, but the letter that we sent back talked about developing a landscape plan?
No, the letter said if we were to develop a plan, it would have to go through for approval.
Yeah.
But when they looked at all the concerns were not with a new plan, but landscape plan being developed. It was concerns about the existing planting being overplanted in certain areas to avoid people seeing in, and the general maintenance of that area I believe there are also concerns about drainage, which were all fixed.
The drainage hasn't been done, as I understand it, so the parks,
It
the
has been
council
done.
recommended that that would be done as part of their annual plan, and then in terms of LTP, then the recommendation got changed and it didn't get agreed, so it was going to come back as part of that.
My understanding is it was done, Richard Gibbs did it, replanned it, and the drainage is fixed in that park now.
Do you know when that was?
No, but I did get told before I came to this that they had fixed the drainage in there. Yeah.
So, but just in terms of consultation and engagement, has anyone contacted those groups that we currently already engaged with around Cutler Park for this specific plan?
No, Yanni, I'm sorry, they weren't contacted.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern. So I just wondered, is there an opportunity and appreciate that, you know, there's a planting season, but, you know, if we if we just laid Cutler Park on the table for 2 weeks, just checked in with those groups and then came back and approved it based on the feedback.
Could I just ask those groups though, as users of the park, they are users of the park, yeah? They would have seen the site signage, Yanni, if they were in the area that went up for the duration of the engagement. So if they were in the park and using the park, people would have been notified that this engagement was happening. Okay, I freely admit we could have, if we had more time, the pre-engagement would have been a lengthier process, but we were under considerable time pressure and obviously want to achieve as much as we possibly can with these tree plans in this planting season.
Yeah, I completely respect that. I guess I'm just concerned in the letter that came back from the community board, it talked about working with people, with the local community and collaborating. So yeah, and I just, I mean, I don't know, has anyone got the mailing list of those people that came to the event? Because the whole point of the event was to engage people to be involved in the future of Cutler Park, right? So it only seems fair that those people would be contacted when we've got plans for it to say, hey, what do you think?
Jackie?
I believe those people were given the opportunity to say what they think because they would have seen the boards if they'd been in the park, and if they had actually felt passionate about making any kind of submission or any kind of response, they would have responded to the communication that we put out.
Right, well, and I will, Celeste has a question, but I'll just point out, and I don't want to go round and round on this, but we can't lie something on the table for 2 weeks because we would have to have an extraordinary meeting.
Sorry, to the next
for the month, right? Okay. Celeste.
Hi, Katie. Just a quick request. Can we get looked into what's happening with the follow-up consultation? So we can be looked into what the plan is.
For clarification, do you mean with Parklands or generally?
Sorry, just the Parklands one, just because there's been a lot of questions and I'm not quite sure. I don't think I'm across all the information there.
No, look, we haven't, I don't think we've gone back in detail on that one at the moment. We're just progressing these reports at the moment, but absolutely we can give you an update on where things are at with that engagement.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So what I am going to suggest is I'm going to move that on the proviso that the matters that have been raised and agreed to with staff with respect to these parks, that those are implemented.
Can I just confirm the matters? Are you speaking about the things for Radley Park?
Yeah, so Radley Park and St. Florian Park. So Radley Park is working with Manawatu Commons around the egress, around the particular species plan and that kind of thing. And the St. Florian was around the shade on the corner. So we've had that correspondence. I know you're going to continue to work with the community in this process, but I just want to make sure that it's effectively noted here. And yeah, if you can come back to us for clarification to make if you need it. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to provide that matters agreed with staff, Radley and St. Florian parts are upheld. That we approve these forest plans. And I And I will, so I'm moving it. Do I have a seconder for that? Well, no, I'm moving a motion, so you can't, unless it's a point of order. Seconded by Jackie. So moving those, and I will say about Cutler Park, I think it's really exciting. I think that we've heard that we've heard that the things that have been raised through that process have been addressed. That there's not going to be any issue with the playground. I drive past this playground, this park regularly, and wish that it was had more trees on it. It's something that door knocking around the area that's raised, and so I want to see it heard. And a month, 2 months, 3 months, the easiest thing to do is to not make a decision. No plan is perfect, but it's hardly controversial. So that's on the table. So I'm happy to go to debate. So if anybody else wishes to speak, Yanni.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm supportive of the idea of planting more trees, although I do have concerns that for some reason in the Linwood ward, we seem to not really respect local democracy anymore, where things seem to be done in a very rushed way. This consultation, I'm sure there were signs of the park, but this was in the middle of one of our wettest periods in the city. So a lot of people may not have even gone to the park in the middle of winter with the amount of rain and moisture that we've had, and may not be aware. But fundamentally, I just think having 2 submissions on something means that we haven't engaged enough, and we need to engage more. There's clearly a huge interest in Cutler Park from the community meetings that we've had at the local MP's office previously, and the community that we've held. So I don't quite understand why, for some projects, we kind of take a rushed approach to spend money and kind of sideline the local community from being actively involved. We have repeatedly given feedback as a previous community board, and again, in some cases on this particular board, that there are certain communities we're just doing the kind of electronic stuff, and you need to spend more effort doing things face to face, bringing people together to get feedback, right? Not every area is the same in terms of how we engage in terms of getting a response. So, I think what's really disappointing is that, for the residents that have engaged around Cutler Park in the past with the local community board, I appreciate that wasn't this specific board, is that there has been a kind of desire to close the loop and get things improved, but things just don't seem to be closing the loop in that regard. So, it's great that the drainage has been done, but amendments to the annual plan have been ruled out of order, have not been supported. We're supported, then
sorry, no, that's irrelevant.
So I think coming up with a landscape plan for a park that incorporates the tree planting, the playground improvements, and the drainage improvements would be a very sensible thing to do, particularly for a community who have offered to work with us, and for a community board, for a council who has previously written back a letter to say that working together would be a good way forward. Long-term planning and consultation between all parties will be an important measure in moving forward and creating a usable and family-friendly space at Cutler Park, which I think we all want, right? So, they've done similar things in Waltham Park, where they've had community meetings, and I can't see why we wouldn't do that.
You're coming to the end of your time.
So just a final point I make is the only other thing that I am concerned about is around septic. So I am concerned about the potential for some conflict, particularly in that Radley Park corridor, where it's quite narrow and you do have the major cycleway going through. So I just hope that the septic has been considered and what that means in terms of people using it.
Thanks, Yanni. Anybody else wish to speak? Greg?
I agree with Yanni on some of the points there. I'd like to see a staged approach and have the planting in southeast and the northeast corners of the park done as an initial stage to get some trees into the area, and then leave the area around the playground to have a more combined approach into that space.
Anybody else wish to speak? All right. Well, I'll close off then. I mean, the thing is, I want to see progress made in our Linwood ward. We lack as many trees as other people have. We lack some of these beautiful parks that other people have and taken for granted, in some cases for 100 years. We're really lucky to have one particularly amazing park that's well treed in terms of Wooden Park, but that's an exception. And this, to me, this is a fulfilment of the planting in Cutler Park is a fulfilment of what people have asked for. So I'm excited about the plan, and and the great thing about these trees is they're not going to all grow at once. So they will, the staged approach will happen by itself. So I think that I don't share the concerns, and I know that we also have to bear in mind the septet stuff. So like it's all of this stuff that we're kind of worried about. I don't think it's a problem. It'd be great if the community responded enthusiastically to all our engagements. But I think in this particular case, I think we can assume that people like great trees. The motion will now be put.
So, I said you've got one. Two separate. Sorry.
No, I'm going to put the whole thing. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? No. Carried. Would you like that noted?
Yeah.
So just please note that as against. All right. Thanks, Toby, for your work.
Thanks.
If you could, have a chat with Michael, that would be great.
Yes. Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
Maybe talk to the cycleway team as well.
Pardon?
Maybe talk to the cycleway team about the MCR.
Yes. So you want it?
The MCR is going through there. That's all I need to be reminded.
So through where?
Through Redley Park.
Oh yeah. Cool. All right. So now we are moving on to item number 11.
No.
Sorry, 10. Sorry, I shifted around the agenda paper. So the Rugby Sports lighting for athletics, Kim is on the via Zoom. Does anybody have any particular questions? It sounds like, I was surprised to see how supportive the local residents were. It seems unusual and that the lights are going to be cut off by 9 p.m, which seems eminently sensible. Kim, did you want anything you think to add to your report?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, great. So the lighting plan that's been proposed here for the report was actually the third iteration of a lighting plan. So the first two had quite tall, up to 30-metre light towers, and I actually rejected that and said, we're not going to support those, and that I didn't think the neighbours would support it either. So the plan they've come to us with 8 poles at 40 metres high seemed like a good solution to that. And I also sent it to the environmental health team to check for light spill on some of those neighbouring properties, which are quite close, but that came back as being 2.3 lux at the boundary, so it is compliant. But I too was surprised not to hear from those immediately adjacent neighbours, and I hand delivered all the flyers myself, so I do know that they went into letterboxes and that they did receive it. Yeah. And on the support from the other groups that are using the park, they were fantastic glowing emails. So I got the impression that the other groups that use Rafiti Domain really like this club and really in behind and support them. So it seems to me like New Brighton Athletics Club are doing a really good job.
That's fantastic. Question, Joe?
I'll move it.
You want to move it? Seconded by young bloke, Alex. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Against?
Sorry, no, aye.
Oh, aye. Okay. Sure. Good. All right. Thank you. Carried. All right. Done that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So now item number 13 is considering objections to the revocation of local purpose reserve road, therefore to Lake Terrace Road Shirley. I just want to acknowledge Rosamond is here, who is the daughter of the neighbours. And she's just here because he's in his 90s. Right, Colin, this is one of the more complicated issues in terms of history, and we've got road reserve, which has changed and was there for a development and a host of things. So if you could just take us through that in summary and deal with any of the objections that the local the neighbours have, that'd be quite helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yes, this is a matter that's been brought to the community board as a result of advertising the revocation of the reserve status of a portion of land. So originally the land was local purpose reserve road, so the primary purpose road. We have hundreds of these throughout our district. Sometimes the council will do them and sometimes the developers will do them in anticipation that at some stage the land will become road. If it's not required for a road, then it would revert back to whatever the underlying zoning of the adjacent land is. In this case, it's residential. So in 2018, council, as they do annually, go through their portfolio and look at all the land that they have for disposal, and then following that goes through the annual plan process or the long-term plan process, either of those two, and then it goes through the public consultation process to declare the land surplus. Once they've done that, then it sort of triggers then the next stages of the process, which in this case is it was a reserve, so we've got to follow the processes under the Reserves Act. So a couple of months ago,
road reserve.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I brought a report to the community board. Unfortunately, I wasn't here because I was at another community board, to start the process. So the first part of the process is put an advertisement in the paper, notify the neighbours, and if you have a look at the report, you'll see that I, again, hand-delivered letters. There's a copy of the letter in there to all of those people that join it. And I even went further beyond that. It's probably 28 or 30 people that surround the area. And as a result of that, we had a few people ring me up, ask a few questions, and then we had 3 written objections. So I went through the objections. Some of them referred to traffic safety, so I put those to our traffic safety people. They said they had no issues with it. Then others related to, we want it for the park or trees or things like that. So we sent those to the open spaces people, the parks people, and asked for their comment, and they didn't want it to be trees. So then it comes back to, does council wish it still to be local purpose reserve road or local purpose reserve? You could change it just to reserve, but then we'd have a neighbourhood reserve at a cul-de-sac.
And you say that the green space don't want to park there?
No.
Can you give any more detail to that?
I'm sorry, I can't. They just said that they didn't want it.
There's a big one across the road.
Oh, there's a big one across the road. Okay, well, that makes sense. So can you give us a little bit more? So can you raise your hand if you want to ask a question, Jan? Can you give some history, like it seems like a kind of an odd shape section, and so was the subdivision done properly in was it the 50s?
We're just going to go through.
You probably would have been about in the 50s, and then the neighbours that come, or the owner of the land that's off Lake Terrace, they did a subdivision there, and the council, as it does now, if you're subdividing land adjacent, it's prudent to actually get people to put through roads in, or sort of land bank road, land for roads for future. Otherwise, you'll end up with all these small cul-de-sacs and things like that. So normally what you would do nowadays, you'd have what they call a structure plan. So you put it in place and it covers 50 hectares. This is where the roads are going to go. And then the developers they've got to develop in accordance with the structure plan is. And then that then allows for through roads. It makes for improved utilisation of land, and you don't end up with lots of dead ends. You end up with better traffic flow to all the properties, and enhances the traffic safety, but also your emergency vehicles and things like that. You're not down in streets and things like that. So the adjoining owner, which would be to the sort of north, didn't need that piece of land. They did their subdivision. They came off around the back, off I think it's Golf Course Road or Golf Road, or around the back, and that's where all their sections. So there are a couple of sections over the back there that actually front on this land as well. So in 2020, around 2021, the council went through the process of actually declaring part of the land as road, which gave access to those neighbours on the left and the right, if you know the piece of land. Previously, they had no legal access over that piece of land. They were using it for an informal access to their garages, but the council decided that they would formalise that. So now they have legal access to their garages.
Was there any cost to the either of those property owners for that?
No, so they received an improvement at no cost.
So when if it is sold onto the market, those people would keep their legal access, which they didn't have previously.
That's correct.
Lot 2 stays with the council.
Huh?
Lot 2 would stay with the council.
Yeah, that's the piece that that's the piece that council has already declared surplus. They've decided how they're going to sell it, and so really today all we're doing is looking at, do you uphold the objections that the people have made? It's either yes, no, or do you want them tailored to suit the community board's wishes are?
Question from Jackie.
And I understand that the neighbours may be concerned that they will be built out with apartments and so on that might be more than a single story. And is there the provision to ensure that it's only single story dwellings, so that's the should the land be sold so that couldn't happen?
What would plan change 14 mean for it?
Yeah.
Well, it's difficult because we're considering the reserve revocation. That sale process should have happened when the council put it up for disposal, not part of this process, because that decision has already been made. So this is just a straight revocation. If the community board wants to go back and relitigate the actual sale and how they're going to sell it.
So this is really just procedural to enable a decision that's already been made.
Correct. Yes, you're correct.
Right. So the previous community board and the council have decided to sell the land.
Correct.
And if we were to decline the revocation, we were not really, we're just making a recommendation to council. So that's all that would happen.
I think it was us.
Yeah, well,
oh no, it was us. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, just community board. And the other thing is, so have any of the people around it expressed interest in purchasing the property? If we were to, if it becomes,
that's not a question I asked them.
That's fine. Right, Tim.
This came to the community board about 4 or 5 years ago to start with, and it's
2018.
Interesting. Lot 2, I just wondered, you asked a question, but I thought lot 3, if they had the money, would like to buy most of that. Lot 2, was that something that was considered with the boundaries?
The other thing you've got to be careful of is the lots numbers change depending on which plan you're looking at. So if you
the subdivision.
Yeah, so if you look at the plan on page 13, think it's not item, sorry, 130, you'll see it's lot 1 there. Are you talking about but that's now the reserve, that's the bit that we're talking about?
Correct.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was your
The
question?
question is, to me, that's a lot of room to be maintained for the council. I just wondered why the entrances couldn't be pushed over to the right and 3/4 of that purchased by lot 3 if they wanted to buy it.
It's not really something you can.
No, but it was dealt with, it would have been dealt with because that was a title. So to do.
I understand that.
Yeah, so to do that, yes, they could have done that, but then that would create some other things, you know, like under width roads, things like that. So you bring in a completely different policy of council. What width do they want roads to be? So this is allowed for the adjoining owners to actually park on the sides of the road themselves. So they'll have off section parking right along there, as well as the arcs that they put in. That was all part of the original subdivision.
So not wanting, so narrowing it back down to the decision we're actually making, which is the revocation of the local purpose reserve. And I'm going to suggest that we move a slightly amended version of the staff recommendation and say that, and we tack on to the bottom of it that the local, the direct neighbours be given the option of first right of refusal of the sale of a property. And this is just a recommendation to council.
Including lot 2. Part of lot 2. Including part of lot 2.
Will be given of right approval, get first right of refusal on purchase of the land. I think if we just say that, that makes it quite simple. And that just means, because at the moment we have land which isn't suitable for a park, isn't designed for a park, that the issues with access have been sorted, and the council doesn't have a lot of use for, but because this has very much been part of these people's, effectively part of it's like people's kind of wider front lawn. So giving a first option to purchase that property to local residents, I think would be a kind of a fair thing to do.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So someone like to move that?
Also add in that
you can propose an amendment. So I'm just asking, are you going to suggest something that we might all agree with?
Oh, just some of what Jackie said, if we can put something in to request it as a covenant of the site to be a single story dwelling.
I just agree with that one.
Yeah, so what I think we should do is I'll move this as a motion and as a substantive, and then we can discuss that as a separate amendment. So I'll move that. Hold on a sec. Does someone want to second that? But what I'm moving? So
yes, I will.
Seconded by Tim. So now we have a motion, and you have a question of.
A question in regards to the revocation of road reserve. If we revocate it from road reserve, but then ask for it to be put into a local neighbourhood reserve, is that something we can do?
That would be another. Sorry, that would be another process that we have to follow. The community board can make whatever recommendations they like.
Because it's not a decision.
And we don't have green space here, so I guess they didn't give you any answer why they don't want to plant trees, or
there's a massive amount of green space there.
Oh, there's massive amounts of green space in other areas that were just agreed to plant a whole bunch of trees on. So, I mean, I thought we were looking for space to plant trees, and also things like, I don't know, community gardens. I'm just trying to understand though, like, because I appreciate the road revocation is one kind of process, but then if there was a concern to address the other things that have been raised around community, green space, whatever, what's the kind of process that we would have to recommend the council to do to consider that?
They would be considering whatever recommendation you make, and then they would then probably ask the same staff, open spaces staff.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for answering our questions. We now have ask you any more questions. So thank you. We have motion that on the table. Really, you wanted to move an amendment to that.
Can I just, how it reads, that the first neighbours be given?
No, not the first neighbour. So that's not, so that the neighbours, the immediate neighbours. Yep. That's what I meant. Right.
Yeah, I'd like
You wanted to move an amendment.
move the amendment to have included the a single story dwelling be there. Concerns from the neighbours were around shading and visual impact, and a single story dwelling doesn't have that same effect that a two-story or multi-story dwelling does have. So I'd like to see that has a I'd like it as a covenant that goes into to be a single story dwelling on this site.
Does anybody want to second that? Jackie? Yeah, second that. Would anyone like to speak against that? Tim, and then.
I've said for many, many years, I think that the social housing should be buying it if there's off-street. If they do, if this doesn't go to the neighbours, if there's off-street parking on that lot 2 proposed, then you could put probably 4 nice dwellings in there, 2-story, with a bit of land around them. So it's what I would prefer, though we can't make them buy it, but they should be.
Alex?
Yeah, I just think, is that working?
Yeah.
I just think at the moment, housing's something that we need to focus on. We need more housing, so limiting it to a 1-story house. I think we need.
They're not one.
Oh, yeah, no, okay.
Yeah, it's still. I think, yeah, if somebody purchases the land, that they should make a decision on how best to use that space and limiting it to single stories. Not something that I support, but it would need to adhere to all the district plan requirements and all those kinds of things anyway. So I won't be voting in favour of this amendment, but I will now put it. So it's just this little amendment around single story. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Okay, raise hands. So I thought you were voting against.
You say aye.
You voted with us.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So voting against, you're going for, sorry, for all those in favour say aye. So
for the amendment.
So that's 3 and against. 3. Yanni? Abstain.
What about, and Yanni?
And Celeste, sorry, Celeste. Which way did you vote?
Yeah, no, I voted against.
Against, okay. So that has failed. So now we move to the substantive, with which has that amendment. So I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against. No. Carried. Would you like that noted, Yanni? Pardon?
Yes, appreciate it.
Thanks.
No problem. All right. So that has now been passed. Thank you for that constructive. Thanks for your report, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
And thanks for coming, Ron. So this should be pretty quick. Rory, you probably don't even need to get up. I'll ask our members for Burwood in particular if you're happy with the expansion of the Burwood East Residents Association, Empire Kingdom. You're right. With any difficulties? Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, Residents Association with capacity to do that. Sounds good.
I'll move it.
Yeah, move by Tim. Oh, seconded by Joe. You're in. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carry. All right. Thank you, members. So now we move on to the easy. Been a few emails flurrying around this. But we have the board projects first, which is the. Sorry.
Item 50.
So item number 15. So we, Celeste has her hand up. So we, as we always do, we had a workshop and we had some discussion, although Alex and Councillor Donovan and Councillor Barber weren't able to be there, but Councillor Barber hasn't had the input. It's been some emails going backwards and forwards. I just want to clarify something, and it'll make sense soon. So the board projects total, probably off the top of your head, total how much? Okay.
I've got it in front of me. Let me just find that paragraph.
Yeah, I can find it.
No, so the board projects. The one question I'm not correct. Let's see. $37 and a half, about that.
37 and a half, and that cut. So after we established the DRF in that motion 3, 37,500 comes out of that
for the board projects.
For the board projects, and that would mean that we have
a DRF of approximately 40,000.
Sorry. So after we established the DRF, and I'm just wanting to clarify, and so under all those Strengthening Communities Fund applications, there is approved and transferred the 7721 to the DRF, and then there's about 37,000. So then we're left with about 40. All right, okay, that answers my question. Now, Celeste, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Paul. I'm just not quite sure if this is the right time to bring it up, but I'd like to put forward a foreshadowed motion. Is this the right? And that's for resolution 3.
Yeah. So can you just explain what you want to do with that? So that's in terms of what to do with some of that DRF. Yeah. So I don't want to relitigate the workshop because I know a huge amount of work's gone into this process. So apologies, this is late. But the foreshadow motions asking that we transfer 81,021 across, which provides a small amount for 3 other projects, which include. I think you mean that we allocate. It was 4,000 of that 77,000 to those projects, rather than transferring more from the, because otherwise we need to take it from other projects. I don't think that's what you're trying to achieve.
No, that's correct. So I'll let you explain that, Paul, if you wouldn't mind.
So I think what this is that as part of that motion 3, you would have an A that says that allocate $4,000 between 3 different projects. And what are those projects, Celeste?
So the 3 projects is the Bridge South Brighton, and that's a joint application between 2 groups, which I'm sure you would be familiar with. And they applied for 15 and we've approved 9. So that's the Bridge Hub and Sustain South Brighton, and they're working in partnership to do a whole bunch of different things, and they're doing a huge amount of work, and I just want to make sure they're sustainable. The second one is 1K for the North Y board riders, sorry. They've been funded in the past and they just haven't received funding this time because of constraints.
How much?
And then the final one's 1K. So 2K increase for the South New Brighton hub. Yep. 1 and then 1K for the North Y board riders.
Okay.
And then 1K for the New Brighton Surf Life Saving Club, which is for the junior lifeguard development boards.
So that's 4K in total.
Yeah.
Which is 10% of the remaining DRF. All right, so that's foreshadowed motion, so it doesn't need a second or anything. So, do you have a question?
Declaration.
Oh, you can know the declaration, yeah?
Yeah, so just because I'm on the board, at the board appointed rep, so I just want to know I haven't partaken in any decision making until this point, and I don't declare it.
For what?
The bridge safety
Bridge, okay, yeah, that's fine, just at the bridge. So we'll go back now. So Celeste has foreshadowed that, and as a way of, and so the motion, so the discussion from the board workshop, so all of those changes which you have access to, which will be up on the screen in front of you. So would someone like to move that, that as an amendment to the staff recommendations? So what came out of the workshop, which will
I just have two questions before we do.
Okay, well, yes, sure. Go for it.
Sorry, I'm just wanted to get clarity around federal funding. I still don't quite understand. So if there's a group, for example, because we're cutting groups to try and fund other groups, but if there's a group that we wanted to give some federal funding to, say 1 or 2 year funding, are we able to do that, and how do we do that?
It's not like it's kind of, and so we can, if we decide that's what we're going to do, you know what I mean? Like,
right, so
but it's not part of this process.
But when are we making the decision on federal funding, and what's the criteria?
The criteria are the same as the strengthening communities criteria, and we are deciding, we will be having a workshop on it in the near future.
Can we top up any group that have applied to this if they get funding through this with federal funding if we choose?
Potentially, yes. While the criteria for federal is almost as broad as SDF, there are some requirements around DIA in terms of you're not handed the pot of money, you have to invoice DIA for the money, and it has to meet the criteria. So there are elements which, broadly speaking, they'll meet SDF, but there are elements within that criteria that have to be met. You also have to weigh up that this is a one-off pot of money, and these groups, you've got to be careful if they become reliant on it, like they have before with other one-off pots of money. So it's better to consider your FCF as a process, and then look at your better off funding once we have that workshop with the board with that criteria to decide how you want to spend it.
Right. And can I just get clarity on the resolutions around the Catholic, the Christchurch
Anglican diocese?
Yeah, sorry, I've just lost that page number. But effectively the on the resolution that we've got. Sorry, just swap to 164.
I believe that we've had a response prior to the meeting.
Sorry, it's just, yeah, page 156. So it's 65415, the Social Service Council of the Diocese of Christchurch. It says that we're approving a grant for the community development workers in Linwood salaries and wages. But I just wanted to check, is that going for 3 roles, the community garden, the men's shed, and the community development worker? So would it not be better for us to actually specify that? Because I don't quite understand. In the past, we've had the projects, we've been very clear about how much is called each project, but within this one, I can't tell.
Yeah, so that's just for the 2 roles. That's for the 2 community development workers. So that's for the men's development worker and the Linwood community development worker. So it's not for the garden.
Right. So who's funding the garden now? Like, why did they just not apply for that?
Yeah, it's just not part of this application.
Right. And why has that had such a big increase?
So in essence, the previous, when the numbers came up, there was actually a second application through for this as well in previous years. So the total was, what did it come out to? Was it 80 something thousand previously, with across 2 separate applications. So just because they were separate names, it kind of didn't show up together in the system. But in essence, the recommendations there to show basically the value that we feel that group has on the community. The men's worker role has been rescoped and changed to move away from purely being focusing in on the men shed and being more around engaging with vulnerable men within the community. So looking into, reduction of suicide, potential harm, and connecting them with services such as the loft, and better doing that. So the scope has been broadened and redefined in that role, which they're currently advertising for at this time. And then also to reflect the work that the rest of the centre is doing in terms of the approach they take to community development work. So obviously having the garden, having the resource centre, and then obviously having the creative spaces in there as well. So that's, I guess, in essence, the recommendation reflects the impact we feel that has on the community.
And it has decreased.
It's increased. So 82,000 minus 27,000. 27,000 went to a civil community development worker.
So there's not. Can you explain it rather than me?
So I guess the previous way was it was split across 3 roles, whereas now, and obviously the amount they applied for was reflective of that in terms of percentage, and it depends what way you look at it and how the application was cut up. But now obviously they're coming to us for 2 roles, and so the percentage of funding based off those 2 roles has increased in essence. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And would it still go ahead, like if we didn't, like say the community development worker, if we just gave it half the quantum of increase, would they still fund that person?
And I couldn't honestly answer that. I suppose I guess they would need to, whether they would be able to fund that internally or look for external funding. That would be the case, but I couldn't say for sure whether that role would be exactly the same as it is right now if the funding was to be cut.
Right. Jackie?
I just want to state that we've had this information now for 5-6 weeks or longer, and we debated this particular organisation at length at the workshop when we were here a couple of weeks ago. I just find it a little bit disrespectful to staff and to other board members that we've already put in a great deal of time into discussing this particular organisation. I need to have more questions and more debate around how much they should come up at this meeting.
Right. It does, like, I appreciate that we're all very busy, but it does make it very hard to make good decisions when we front load a lot of the questions into right near the end. And so I hope that next time we come to this discussion, we can make sure that, given that this is the biggest financial decision that we make, that next time we come to a decision like this, that we make sure that we reply to the emails from me asking you to do that, and that we get all the questions out on the table, and we're well prepared, because it does create a lot of extra work. And I know that the staff agonise over these decisions. They put in lots of work. They go and talk to organisations, and I just want to thank you for all your work, and rest assured that we're just elected members being elected members, not your fault. So that, coming to that, did you have a question, Jo?
Yeah, just I might be a bit blonde here, but those alterations that we talked about at the workshop, where are they listed on here? Are they not on here, and do we put that?
They'll be up there.
So where you see those highlights,
yes,
so
okay.
that they're reflected.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
thought they might be in
So,
one place.
yeah, and they're in the minutes in the big tin can if you want to look through them. But so would someone like to move the staff recommendation as amended by the minutes of the, how would I put it, as amended from the workshop? So moved by Yanni and seconded by Jo. All right. So that is the staff recommendation as amended from the workshop. Well, in that case, is there any debate? I don't think we need to debate. We've gone around on this.
Can I just check with the list resolutions? I mean, I'll have to just add it in, but if that's easier.
No, I mean, it's on the table now. So I think unless there's any debate, motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Just note that that was unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. One final bit to deal with. Well, on this is that there is in the report you see there's number 3, which deals with allocating the DRF. So that's rather than amending the staff recommendation, we'll approve the transfer of the remaining balance, the 2023 Waitai Coastal-Burwood-Linwood Response Fund, so did you include that in the?
I can include, if the board are happy, just to make it easier for the presentation of the minutes, I could tweak the resolution, but it's as the chair and the board is your call.
So we can do it slightly differently. And so Celeste, I think you want to move that the board transfer, what is it? 1,000, 2,000?
I got 2,000,
2,000.
4,000 in
So
total.
the board transfer.
That figure, it's wrong.
$2,000 to Bridge South Brighton from the DRF into the how would you put it? To can you think of words, Chris?
Yeah, so perhaps that the board allocate the following amounts from the 2023-24 discretionary response fund, and then do colon, and then maybe list those 3. So 2,000 to the Bridge South Brighton 1, and then 1. That might be the tidiest, because basically you're making a grant now from your DRF. DRFs in, sorry, rather.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, is that reading DRF?
And then just then through Bridge South Brighton.
Yeah. And it's going to be seconded by Alex.
He can't, he's got a conflict.
Huh?
He's got a conflict.
There's 2 Bridge.
I've managed to conflict.
Oh, but he's managing the conflict by not participating in decisions at the bridge. It's not real. I mean, it's different from a regular conflict when you're the board appointment. So 2,000.
I'll sort the formatting out later.
Yes. All right. All right. So moved by Celeste and seconded by Alex. Any debate? It's you. You can, Celeste, if you want to speak to that, it's your right as the mover.
Sure. I want to start by just thanking staff. I recognise that huge amount of work's gone into this, and I think it's really fantastic, the range of organisations that we're supporting. I've moved this today because there are a few organisations that are doing a huge amount of work in the community, and I just want to make sure that they can continue doing their work in a sustainable way. So this is just a small increase to recognise that we need to sometimes be a bit responsive and flexible to make sure that these groups can deliver the outcomes we all want them to. So thank you.
Thanks, Celeste. Alex, did you want to say anything?
I just seconding what Stacey.
All right. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No, the motion will now be put then. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Cool. Thank you, everybody. So next is item 16, which is the board projects. Does anybody have any? Is there any discussion? No. Well, would someone like to move the staff recommendation? Joe, seconded by Jackie. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And so now we move on to the board area reports. We can take it as read, I believe, assuming that we've all read it.
That's huge.
It is very long, and thank you very much for all your work. Great to see an update from what's happening at Mortangata with the Vanuatu Canterbury. Cool photos and Parklands Community Centre and all that stuff. Is there anything the staff wish to point us to in the report?
No, I don't think so. Also, the other thing to highlight in there is just the team's awesome work with the teacher training in community.
With the what?
My pronunciation's bad. Apologies for that. But yeah, it's just acknowledging the team did some awesome work there. Working alongside community.
All right, I did. So the stuff around the tsunami planning, I think, arose because it was mentioned in some kind of council memo around it, and apparently that isn't actually a thing. So I just flagging really that I want to follow it up with the around that, and that I want to figure out what they were actually referring to. So sorry if that's vague.
It was in response to an old action from.
That's right.
Yeah, but they're just working through to close those off.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was an old action that referred to in that the action report it had a comment that said something tsunami, and I asked what that was, and it turns out it's not a thing. So I don't know what it means. Yeah.
All the areas got changed, and there was greater risk in different zones, but no one's working with some communities over what happens in a tsunami evacuation.
Oh, really?
So, because I live in one, so I'm quite aware of it. They test the things, but there's hardly any information about what we do. So, I think we can't drop the ball on this. As low as the risk is, the risk does exist, and it would be good to just understand what the planning is. But places like Wolston that are impacted because you've got Rutherford Street, you've got two bridges, you've actually got an island in Wolston that could have a lot of access issues if you don't have a clear plan for people. So I just think we do need to kind of understand what the things are. There's been a big focus on Pages Road Bridge and South New Brighton and New Brighton, and I totally understand that, South Shore as well. But there are other areas that I think that are impacted that we don't have clear plans with the community on what to do.
Chris, and then Celeste.
It's obviously it's not my area of expertise, but Emily might be able to chip in and help me. But my understanding is that we've got a team in council with I think it's resilience coordinators. They're quite happy to work with community groups on those plans. So if you know of community groups that are looking to develop that or have discussions around that, they're quite happy to meet with them and develop those plans.
I think it's more fundamental than that. It's actually just coming up with a plan that works in terms of traffic, and then letting residents know, here's what we're proposing, getting the feedback and saying, here's the plan. It's a bit like when it floods, we're supposed to have community flooding response plans, but I've never seen one. And every time it floods, some of us get the same hotspots that have been put into the call centre repeatedly without knowing, what the plan is. So
Celeste, we're running out of time, so if you don't mind, I'll
Can I just ask a very quick question?
Yeah.
Can we request a briefing from Civil Defence on this? Because I've met with Civil Defence through council, and this is something we probably need to be aware of to get funding for through the long-term plan, because currently there isn't sufficient funding in place to resource this work through council.
Okay, so Joe.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that all of the tsunami stuff that I've done in the last few years has always been about the community making the plan for themselves and fending for themselves, because there isn't the resource to actually supply people for traffic management and everything if needed. So it's all about having your own personal plan in your community plan.
Yeah. So with that in mind, if we could just tack on to the receiving the report, the board requests staff a briefing from Civil Defence regarding tsunami.
Everything.
Yeah.
Emergency evacuation.
Regarding emergency evacuation and planning. Emergency and planning, that'll do. All right, so would someone like to move that? Right, Tim? Second by Joe, sorry. Quick on the draw on the second half of the meeting. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carry. Thank you very much for your report and all the work that went into it and the work behind it. And that, I believe we're now to the members' information exchange with a few minutes to spare. Alex, you have something you wish to raise.
Oh, yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, listen, I'd just like to express my disappointment in the approach that council has taken towards the Oromed extension to the state. After receiving information from relevant teams and external advice, it is clear to me that the best way forward for New Brighton and our board area is to pursue compulsory acquisition. Our mall, our community and our people were being held hostage by land bankers, and I absolutely disagree that reputational risk to the council should be a factor with holding up a project that has been in the pipeline since 2015. What should be a factor is getting this resolved, forcing them to sell and cleaning up New Brighton. Residents are sick and tired of complaining about New Brighton Mall. They are sick and tired of council's inaction, and it is time for things to change. I love to think that following this, staff will take another look at expediting this project by beginning design on the extension. And I'd like to assure our community that I will continue to advocate for this project alongside our businesses, our community groups and residents until we get an outcome our community deserves.
I just have one question. Do you have a particular track in mind for the TikTok? I would certainly welcome a more assertive approach from council in terms of progressing the redevelopment of New Brighton Mall. And
try and get the owners to repair the car parks.
Yep. So I think it's good to be reminded again that that is an option. We share your frustration, I think, Alex. We have, if anybody has anything that they think needs raising, you've got about a minute, and then I would like to ask Jan.
Just mindful of the plan change that we got briefed on. Is the board able to ask for a list of plan changes in the work program? And obviously there's been plan changes that the board has advocated for or had an interest in. And I think of the residential industrial interface plan change, which we've had one briefing, but it wasn't really clear how that's been pursued or progressed. So
I'm happy if everybody else is happy for us to ask that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward bit of information to get.
Thanks, that would be good. And then the other thing is, I just wondered if the community board had, obviously we've raised concerns, I think, about the toxic river spill and the Apaho headgate, but whether we'd had any more information or we can seek information from our staff or ECAN over what the cause was, what the learnings are from that, and what's going to be done differently in the future.
And on that note, also thinking about the runoff from the National Steel site, I just want to acknowledge that ECAN Councillor Greg Burns, as Councillor for Auckland, has been very active in his representative role and very a strong ally for this community board and our community on this stuff. Just want to acknowledge that, and it's great that we have someone representing that area, and I know there are other people in the ECAN who care about this stuff too. All right. Well,
I've just got one thing I'd like to say.
Yep.
This Karaka Unu here, I just told it I'm not going to say it from now on because I don't believe in the supreme sacredness. Just let you know that.
Well, I am. You can. That is your right. I think it's a bit different from a Christian prayer. You're not necessarily giving a sense. You're really embracing the wider. That's what I've been told anyway. Well. On that note, maybe not on that note. I just want to acknowledge that and thank the staff for all the work that's gone in not just for our governance team, but other staff into a bunch of reports that we've had to deal with, but especially our governance team who've slaved over this strengthening community stuff. I know that's a lot of work and you have some last minute stuff to do for us, and thank you very much for that. And you really do appreciate the work you do for us in our community every day. I also thank members for being constructive and working through this stuff. So on that note, if you would all like to stand, you may or may not choose to join us in the karakia. Uni here, Whakanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te ngākau, te tina, te wairoa, i te tātata, koe rā, i rongo, whakairia, a ki runga, kia tina, ui, tāia.